This is Straight Good, just Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
They had. Here we go.
I'm Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
I hope savior of basketball has won.
Well, the Dorchester Chamber has been going pretty well.
I'm Aaron Wiggins, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mark Dagnall, and I'm down to dunk.
He just does a big smile and
I feel blessed by God to be here down to dunk, be here with you.
I'm Alex Caruso, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
Oh, jeez. Are you going to sing it good enough for me to guess it, or?
Panhandle. Jeez. I'm tweaking.
Name 2 famous Oklahomans.
Myself and Jalen Williams.
Is that a crazy answer?
All my friends call me Bob.
Where's Rachel? Unique story. He lived a whole life.
Plain?
Plain.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
True blood Oklahoma.
That's right.
Pretty exciting, if you ask me.
This is J-Dub, world champion J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
And eat burgers.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Before I get to 2 friends of mine, I want to tell you about 2 other friends of mine, Aaron and Drew Reese of Shelter Insurance, spelled R-U-I-Z. And you need to be asking yourself, are you insured? Are you insured? Give them a call or text today, 405-773-5500 for Aaron, 405-478-7714 today. Listen, there is a horrific winter storm that's going to hit OKC this weekend, and you better be insured by Shelter Insurance. Give them a call or text today. They can help you save money, and they can also talk about how awesome Shea was last night in Milwaukee. So you get the double whammy. Support the people that support Down to Dunk. With me on a Thursday, weird Thursday pod, but we've got Michele Berra and special guest Fred Katz of The Athletic. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thank you. The longtime listener, first time guest. It's a pleasure to meet both of you. I hope we have chemistry.
We'll
hope
see.
This doesn't get awkward.
There's only one way to find out. Only one way to find out.
It's been a while, guys.
It has. We used to do pods like this regularly, and now it's like maybe once a year if we're lucky. So here we are.
This was at one point probably the most prominent relationship in my life. Just talking about this basketball team, with these 2 people
At
for like
very
a good
weird
portion.
hours.
At very weird hours. I mean, look, that's basically just because of the existence of time zones. But talking this basketball team with these 2 people was a very significant portion of my life for a very significant portion of my life. So,
and now we're back. Now we're back.
Not back. We never went away.
True. We kind of did, but we're back now. Fred, you wrote a piece about Chet Holmgren, and you sat down and did a film study with him, specifically on his defense, which has been elite. I think that he is, according to BetMGM, front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. There are a lot of stats to back it up, but then getting to, if you haven't read it, go read it at The Athletic. But I thought we could discuss what you wrote and then maybe bring us behind the scenes a little bit with Chet. Because Chet's been, I don't know that he's been in the spotlight enough or in front of cameras enough for people to get to know him. But he's a delightful guy, kind of a fun character, I would say. And so I'd love to just kind of hear what your experience was like, just sitting down to interview him and what the setting was and all of that.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we sat down for a lunch and looked at, I was so cognizant. My least favorite thing that a feature writer does, and they do this in every genre, sports and whatever else, is Holmgren said as he dug his fork into his watermelon crest or whatever the hell that thing is called. They'll describe whatever kind of salad the person is having, and I'm like, who cares about the salad? Who cares? Why are we talking about this? Just talk about the subject of the story. So I was
food talk is always welcome. Come on.
If the story were about food, sure. That would be great. But it's just like jammed in there. It's just like Holmgren said as he took a bite out of his Gruyere grilled cheese. And I'm like, I don't know if he's immature for the grilled cheese or if he's sophisticated for the Gruyere. I have no idea.
So food is not in the piece, but what did he eat?
What is in the piece?
Come on.
Yeah, we want to know now.
No, I'm asking what did he eat? What food did you both eat? That's what I want to know now.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, this is, I have to say, of all of the things that we could have discussed with this story, where I thought Chet was like so interesting and really delved into the basketball X's nose. Like I was like,
you do this. Now you're taking up 2 minutes talking about why you could have just said it. You could have just said it by now. You could have just said what you ate.
You know what's weird? You know what's weird?
What?
This is the first time anyone's ever told me I talk too much.
Yeah, it hadn't happened in a full 24 hours, right?
About food or in general?
All of the above. No one's ever told me that. That's so strange that you would make that criticism. I got a salad and a fruit bowl, and Chet got some hummus and some guacamole, and got a burger. And we each had some fruit at the end. It was lovely, and we just talked basketball for a while, watched some film together. And he was really, I respected how self-critical at times he was, and just like how willing he was to take me behind the scenes and like into his brain as we looked at some of his better defensive moments.
So before we get to that, tell me, is Chet a catch-up guy or not? I need to know.
I mean, no one beats Royce Young.
True.
But he does use ketchup.
Okay,
but
good.
who just raw dogs the burger?
I didn't know if he wanted mustard. I didn't know. I mean,
there was ketchup. There was ketchup.
Okay.
But that would be, I feel like it'd be newsworthy if there weren't.
True.
That would be, imagine just getting burger
Sometimes
and bread.
you have to ask the question though, you know.
There are other stuff that you can put in the burger.
Yeah, but if you're requesting something, you're going to request the ketchup. You know, it's like if they have a special burger sauce at the restaurant, then you're going to go for it. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, can you bring me a side of mayo when the burger comes down?" You know, like that doesn't happen.
McKelly's raising his hand. So
yeah, me. Mayonnaise and mustard?
Not.
No.
A classic Texan over here.
Yeah.
Anyways, now tell us. Okay, so you were discussing some very specific defensive plays. I don't want you to like tell us everything that you wrote, but I want you to like maybe take us behind the scenes. Like what was it like to break down plays with him, and like what was his demeanor, what was his mindset, you know, when he's looking at these plays?
He was very analytical, and I would say very self-aware. I loved getting to do these kinds of pieces because number one, you just don't get to do them very often. My favorite part of my job is being able to talk about the game with people who can teach me all about it. And that could be players, that could be coaches, that could be execs, that could be a million different people. And that's just the most fun thing that I get to do. And he's a very, very studied guy. And so when I found out I was going to be able to get this interview, I didn't know Chet incredibly well. I'm not around the team. I used to be around the team regularly back in the day. I'm not anymore. I don't live in Oklahoma City. I don't come to Oklahoma City that often. But I hit up some people who know him, and I was like, would Chet be good at this? Because most guys aren't going to be good in that setting. You know what I mean? Either because they keep things really close to the vest, or because, maybe they're just purely, they play the game. I thought he might be good based on the way he played, but some guys are just instinct, like they're just like, I did it because I thought it was the right way to do it. And it's just like, I don't know. I just have this thing in my brain that's just directing me there. And like, I can't explain why or how I did it. And then there are other guys who are, philosophers of the game and really want to break everything down. And I hit up a couple of people and asked think I asked you too. I was like, you think Chet would be good at this? And everybody who I hit up would be like, oh, he'd be awesome at that. Like, and he might, and a couple people who I asked were like, oh, he might actually be like really into it. Like he loves just like nerding out about the game. So I was like, great. That's the common interest between the two of us. I don't think anyone has looked at me and been like, that's a cool guy. When it comes to basketball, it's a guy that's a cool guy who's really quiet. So it was really great to be able to kind of pick his brain in that sense. The first clip that I showed him was a block where he got a block on Amen Thompson, and it was in, at the time, their most recent game. And the first thing he said was that it wasn't a good play by him. And I was like, I thought it was great. I was like, what? And I was like, it was great recognition because he's on the weak side and he's on the left elbow, and Thompson drives against J-Dub, and Chet just sprints over and help. He's on Şengün on the weak side, and he sprints over and help, and he gets the block. And I was like, wait, why is this not a good play? He was like, I didn't communicate on this one. Like I should have communicated. Like I just kind of went rogue. I forget if he called it going rogue or I called it going rogue. But he was like, it just basically, he was like, I went rogue, and I just kind of went off and did my own thing. But one of the things I think is so interesting about the Thunder is how much Mark Daigneault has fostered this environment where players are encouraged to do stuff like that. And I talked about that with Daigneault for this story, just how much he encourages guys, especially guys who know what they're doing and who are smart and think the game, how much he encourages them to be like, you know what, I see something in this moment where I'm going to switch up a coverage. How much he encourages Jay Will and Isaiah Hartenstein to just in the moment be like, I'm going to blitz this pick and roll.
Yeah.
I talked to him in the past about Lou Dort's closeouts. Lou Dort has the weirdest closeouts in the NBA by far. He just has the strangest. He will do things that are fundamentally insane. And when I say fundamentally insane, I mean insane based on the fundamentals of basketball. And I also mean just like on a fundamental level, they're insane. Like they shouldn't work. He looks like he's doing an Irish dance or something when he does a closeout every once in a while. And you're like, what are you doing? And his only logic is, I'm just messing with the dude. I'm getting in his head.
Yeah.
And Daigneault just lets him do it because he's compared it in the past to me of letting an artist paint. And Chet has kind of a great riff on that quote in the story that I put in there. And in this case, it was kind of Chet being like, I see something, I'm just going to go. So I asked Daigneault about that play, and Chet saying that like he didn't communicate, he could have communicated more. And his logic was like, what I would say to him is he puts out so many fires for everybody else that it's okay if every once in a while people have to put out some of his.
Yeah.
And but I thought his introspection and being pretty critical of his own plays while also being able to like actually break them down in a very active sort of sense was really interesting.
Yeah. I've asked Mark about that specifically before, and kind of the way I phrased it was like a lot of teams, you kind of have to let elite offensive players play their game. You know, you kind of have to, whatever your schemes are, it's great, but you have these guys who have played a certain way their whole life. Like they have to be able to play their game. And I was like, how often do you let these defenders do the same thing on the other end of the court? Because I don't think that we often think about defenders in that way as like, hey, this is how they defend, and this is where they're most comfortable defending. And Mark was like, I give guys like the most leeway because we have, and I've been calling them like defensive superstars. You know, you let the offensive superstars do their thing because that's what they're capable of doing. They can carry the offense, but the Thunder have multiple defensive like superstars on their team. And the fact that he kind of lets them go, it says a lot about Mark, but it says a lot about the team too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And sometimes you can
Michele,
really see it. you can really see, like, from time to time. You made the example of Lou Dort freestyling on defense. Sometimes is doing extra help or maybe faking a help. Sometimes this leads to very good closeouts, steals, like last night. Lou Dort made like an amazing job, not just on Giannis, but in general. And sometimes to leaving a guy wide open. This is part of Lou Dort's process. Back to Chet, though, there are parts of the article where he mentioned the fact that he has to face bullies. What was your feeling about that? Like, is it something that he feels like something that is like this, and he has to adjust, or is he targeting some stuff for the future?
You know, it's interesting. It's a good question because, like, I think you're talking about the clip where Steven Adams tries to seal him and he gets the block. And I picked that out because Steven Adams is the strongest dude in the NBA, as Thunder fans well know. And Chet is, you know, not exactly big boned. And if there's a knock on Chet, which I don't think exists as much anymore, but it was the question about him coming into the league, it was like, is he going to be pushed around too much? And Adams literally moves him on the play, but like, congrats. You're now in a company with literally everybody who's ever played a basketball game against Steven Adams. And Adams literally moves him, but his length and his positioning are both so good that he still gets the block and help on a big dude, on Jabari Smith, like not on some, you know, not on Reed Shepherd, on Jabari Smith, on a 6'10" dude. And so I asked him when we were looking at that play, I didn't include this in the story, but I asked him, could you have made this play your rookie year? And I thought he was going to say no. I thought he was going to say he was still getting comfortable with the physicality. Let me call this up. We'll do a cutting room floor thing.
Wow.
Of stuff that, because there are so many quotes. I mean, we talked for a long time and I talked to Daniel for a really long time, and Chet's quotes were so analytical that like I wanted to really just let them speak for themselves. So I didn't get a lot of the Dagnall quotes in there, but I said, could you have done it as a rookie? And he said, and he just immediately said, yeah, of course. And he didn't even interpret it as, because he's very competitive, very competitive. And so sometimes it was really interesting. I didn't ask a follow-up question, even though he misinterpreted the question, because the misinterpretation was the answer. So he thought I was asking, like, were you a good enough shot blocker to make the block when you're your rookie year?
Yeah.
And so the idea that he would get pushed around by Steven Adams, even as a rookie,
too far to get that block.
Didn't even cross his mind. And so I didn't even feel like I needed to ask the follow-up in that moment, because what he said was he immediately said, yeah. And he said, shit, I block more shots as a rookie than I do right now. Which is true. And he said, I got it. And then he joked. This was a joke when he said, I got to get my averages up. And then he laughed. And he said, I definitely do have a better understanding of the game today. I'd say one advantage I had my rookie year was I didn't understand how long a season is. You go deep in the playoffs, you're playing 100 games. So every single game, I was just like, there was no pacing myself every single game. It was just balls to the walls, especially on defense and everything. So I feel like that probably helped me out, but it also wears you down. And there are times as a rookie where I didn't really know what I was doing. There were a few more curse words in there than I just said as well, that I left out for the sake of the younger audience, even though I think I included one. But I thought it was really interesting that like that element didn't even cross his mind. It was an interesting look into, you know, as somebody who spends a lot of time professionally, obviously, around people who are maniacally competitive. And that's why they reach the levels they reach, you know? That's why, if you look at the Thunder, that's why Russell Westbrook reached the level that he reached, because he's maniacally competitive. A lot of people I've covered since I describe similarly, or with the same sort of mindset. And I always think it's interesting when that competitiveness comes through. It doesn't always come through in a aggressive way. It can come through in a subtle way like that, where he just totally interpreted a question differently than I meant it. And I was like, no, it's still a great answer.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing that I don't think it's in the article, but it always left me speechless about Chet. And since you talked a lot about his style of defense and would not maybe have thought about it, I think that one of the most difficult thing that he make look very easy is the closeouts. He has a control on the end of the closeout. I mean, he can sprint toward a guard, stop in the right position, close enough to contest, but not in a position where if the guard starts the dribble, he's just beaten. And this, for a guy that is that tall, is outstanding. Like, many guards go either too far or stay too far back, basically yielding nothing in a closeout. Chad, already as a rookie, but now even better, can do that always to perfection, which is like, it just blows my mind.
Such a good point. Didn't include it in the story. Basically all the clips that I chose were him playing the 5. I feel like that skill shows even more when he plays the 4. And he's got to have these controlled closeouts against all these different kinds of guys, right? Because when he's playing next to Hartenstein, and Hartenstein guards the 5, he could be guarding a spot up shooter, or he could be guarding like an off the dribble threat, or he could be guarding somebody who doubles as both of those things. I did actually have a really interesting interaction with Dignalt about that, where Mark was talking about like how controlled his closeouts are and how it makes him this really good shot blocker. And he said, let's see, he has a great discernment of when to pull, meaning when to chase the ball. His discernment is usually later than you think it's going to be, because he just kind of knows he can get to it because of the speed of because of his speed and his length. So there's some plays. There was one last game where it was Thompson. Those types of plays, he lays off someone and then he gets to them late, but he's not reckless. He very rarely plays where he jumps himself out of position, which I thought was a really good way of putting it. And you look at it and you're like, where is he going? It's hard for anybody to drop the ball off. It's hard to lift it. It's hard to make him lift and drop it off because Chet's so patient. I think that's the instincts that he's had all along. And that's why we were talking about him specifically in drop coverage as well. And that's why he's good in drop and off the ball. And I said to Mark in response, I was like, he's really become one of the best second jumpers in the league. And that to me is like, that's really what you want with somebody who's got his size and length. That's how someone goes from, okay, well, they're really big and really long, and they're going to guard because they're really big and they're really long. But if you can always be the second jumper, like the best shot contesters are the ones who jump after whoever they're contesting jumps, all of them. Like, I don't know if those are the guys who lead the league in blocks per game, but those are the ones who alter the most shots, like Chet, Wemby, Isaiah Stewart. Like, you look at the guys who are at the top of the league in field goal percentage against in plays that they, shots they contest at the rim, and they're really, really good second jumpers. So I said he's a really good second jumper. And Mark said he's great at that. It's the instincts combined with the tools, which is the length and speed on the floor. And he's lightning off the floor too, meaning he's lightning smart. And you combine those things, and it's like you have the dude who's the favorite for defensive player of the year right now.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating. I also like the quote from Mark about aggression and how they'd like rather be over aggressive than passive, and like they just feel like that's going to net out for them something positive. And you can see that. I don't know that Chet is necessarily the guy that I would zero in on as the guy who is overly aggressive. I think that probably goes to their 3 insane guards. more than anybody. But I just like that quote. Like Mark is just clearly probably just a really fun coach to play for. Just one, Mark's recognition of like what his players are capable of, and then allowing them to kind of fulfill who they are within what Mark wants to do is not like super common. Like I think about the Knicks right now and just like the turmoil that they're in as a team. And I know they beat the Nets by 5 billion yesterday, but like there's still like there's something just weird about them. And there's probably like some of those things that Mark is doing that isn't happening in New York that's like causing these problems. But I just feel like Mark does such a good job of like making every player feel like they're imprinting their game into what the Thunder are doing.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I loved the quote that you mentioned as well. I thought it was really interesting, and it's a huge staple in how they play. It reminds me of something. I was interviewing Jay Wright, obviously legendary Villanova coach. I was interviewing Jay Wright once, and we were talking about Josh Hart. And I asked him, like, Josh Hart obviously just plays so hard.
Yeah.
Just that's his signature, just how unbelievably hard he plays. And I asked him, I said, why do you think Josh Hart plays that hard? What is it about his humanity, his character, his personality, whatever you want to call it, that makes him play that hard? And he said he's not afraid to fail, which I thought was really interesting response. I didn't expect it. I thought he was going to say it's the way he was raised, his parents, which with Josh Hart definitely is part of it. If you've met his parents, it is the way he's raised. But I thought it was really interesting, and I was like, "Can you tell me more about that?" I don't know if I would just like to hear you talk more about that. That's a really interesting concept. He was like, there are so many players who I come across who are just like, if I go all out at this and I'm not all the way there, then it means I'm not good enough. And there are also so many players who, if I go all the way out on this and I mess up, and everyone can tell that I'm going as all out as I possibly can, then people are going to be like, well, I guess that's as good as this guy is going to be. And I thought about that, even though this doesn't totally relate to this situation, I thought it tangentially did, that concept, because when Dagnall, and I'll read you the full quote, Andrew, because I didn't put the full quote in the story because
Please do.
I thought it got kind of clunky. So I asked Mark if he like tells the team, like, go ahead and freelance. And that's how we got into this quote. And he said that he doesn't tell them explicitly to do it. He had later said to me, we're not teaching that or encouraging it per se. We're just never discouraging it. But in that moment, he had said to me, we don't necessarily talk to the team about this, but as a general framework, we want a team that fails aggressively. If we're going to have a bad possession, it's because we're over aggressive rather than passive, because the upside of the aggression is higher. The cost benefit of that will net out for us, especially with our ability to put the fires out because of the personnel. That's where we can be a little bit more aggressive and reckless because we can cover so well. It's recovery on the perimeter with the closeouts, and it's recovery at the rim with this guy in reference to Chet. And we were talking about Hartenstein in that aspect earlier. And I was thinking, when you have a coach who encourages that mentality, even if he doesn't say it explicitly, what it does is it kind of removes that fear of failure to a degree. Like you're allowed to mess up as long as you're messing up in the way that is going all out and going bonkers. And it's a really interesting insight into the psychology of this team, because we look at the Thunder, who have by far the best defense in the league, and we could talk about scheme, and we can talk about personnel, and we can talk about strategy and everything else. But to me, one of the most interesting parts of why they're this good defensively, why they're like historically great defensively, is the psyche of all of these individuals who come together and play the same way on random games in January, even after winning a title. How did that happen? You know, A lot of
Yeah.
there are a lot of super talented teams who have everything and who are great and who win titles, but they're not going to do this in January, you know? And so how did that happen? And I was thinking about that when Dagnall gave me that answer. I was like, I feel like part of it is just like, if you're a player, it's got to feel really freeing to not have that burden of ever having to think, even if it's subconscious, just removing the, but what if I fail part of everything? Because as long as you're feeling in the way he wants, you're golden.
Yeah. And part of the quote is, to me, it's important that he mentioned to you that they are not talking about it, but they are not discouraging. This is equally important to me because if you see the Thunder playing 85, 90%, random numbers, 95% of the possession, you see a very disciplined, organized, well-structured, aggressive, but not reckless team. And you see, as I was mentioning before, guys freelancing a bit in a very controlled way. So to be able to have a very aggressive bunch that makes very few mistakes, and when freelance, you can clearly see that they know that they are freelancing and the plan is different. They will not be punished. They will not be put on the bench for like messing up a play, but they don't do it often. They know what they should be about. It's even more powerful because, I mean, everybody knows that they have a role, and offense and defense, and the fact that Dagnall can extract value everywhere without like having to temper guys down or just to minimize their approach to the game, and still they are able to be controlled and effective is insane. Because the risk of having guys that are freelancing too much is high, very high. Yeah. This is why the team construction is a key part of that. You have guys that know for the vast majority of the time on the court what they are supposed to be, what they're supposed to do, and it's insane, the quality that they can achieve playing like that.
Yeah. It's why like Sam deserves so much credit, and like front office deserves so much credit because they have been seeking after these like specific players that have specific mindsets when it comes to the game and specific skills. And you look up and down the roster, and sometimes it leaves you saying things like, "Oh, they need a bigger wing, or they need this or that." But I think that they think of these like concepts not necessarily in like the size of player that we need to have at a particular position. They think of it as like what's the mindset, what's the skill set, and what are they capable of, rather than like, hey, we need to go find a 6'9" or a 6'10" forward to do this. Like, no, like how about Alex Caruso, who defends forwards and bigs better than like a Dorian Finney-Smith or somebody like that would, because I think you think of guys like DFS as like, oh, well, that's the kind of guy that can fill this spot as a switch defender and blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually, no, like Caruso is way better at that than all of those guys. And they don't really care that he's like the same size as Lou Dort and that he plays similar to Cason Wallace. It's like, no, like we want those guys. Like we want to have as many of those guys as we can.
One of my favorite moments of the interview with Chet was we were talking about how the Thunder are, this is not included in the story, but we were talking about how the Thunder are, they're a very good communication team. And that's probably why Chet held himself to the standard that he did when I first asked him about that play where he told me he didn't communicate what he was going to do. And you need that in order, if you're going to have freelancing every once in a while, you need a few things. Number one, you need guys to be going hard every second, which they do.
Yep.
Number two, you need communication. If you're going to freelance, you got to tell your teammates that you're freelancing. Yeah. So they got to know how to handle it. Number three, you probably need guys who are really good at long closeouts.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is the defense is going to go into rotation, and you want to execute the correct closeout for whoever that shooter is. And you are going to need to be able to rush at guys, which means you need speed and or length and or smarts, preferably all three, which they basically have in all of their dudes. But one of my favorite parts of the interview was we're talking about the Thunder pre-switching, which is, they'll get a mismatch off the ball somewhere and Chet will be on a guard or something like that. And two guys, maybe Chet and Shea will pre-switch away from the ball before somebody comes up to set a pick and roll so that Chet can be guarding the back end of the pick and roll. And that takes really good communication. So we're talking about that concept. And I just off the top of my head was like, maybe there's a mismatch and let's say like you're on a guard and Caruso's on a big, and he just immediately interrupted me and goes, "Whoa, that is not a mismatch." He's like, "Have you seen Alex Caruso? Like, that's not a mismatch."
Yeah.
What do you know? I was like, I guess you're right. That was literally the worst example that I could have given. But I love that, like, that's the immediate reaction when here's Caruso's name, where it's like, he did guard Nikola Jokic in a game 7. So he's absolutely correct. But it also takes, I guess, if I'm going to add one more thing that it takes to play that way, it takes trust, like actual trust. Like actual trust, not just trust in like, oh, I trust this person as a human being, but like trust that I know if I go here, Lou Dort is going to be able to figure out intellectually in the moment that he's supposed to go there. And it takes that kind of trust. And, a lot of these guys came up together, played together when this team wasn't good yet, or at least was maybe losing to Dallas in the second round.
That's kind. Not good yet. Very kind. But okay.
Yeah. A lot of these guys have been around each other for a long time. And that's a good way to build up trust. Like, they've failed together a lot. And they haven't really seen the actual, that's the other thing too, where it's like a lot of the time you fail together a lot and everything gets broken up, or at least something gets broken up, like you fail together a lot and it's like something gets broken up. Jay Will gets traded as salary just to make salaries work in a trade that brings Cam Johnson to the Thunder in the deadline last year because they didn't win the title the year before and they feel like they could use like a shooter and a defender and he makes sense for them, like normally you do something like that. A lot of organizations would try to justify a move like that. The Thunder have very, very, very explicitly built into their philosophy. Like, these guys came up together. They built trust with each other. They're going to do it together. Like we're going to let these guys do it together because they've built up that trust. And in a way, like, I think that kind of takes away that fear of failure in some ways too, where it's like, all right, well, Jay Will has sat here and gotten way better each year. And, didn't know what kind of player he was going to be when he was super young. And the team was worse than not good yet. And all of a sudden you're like, Jay Will's a good player. And then they pay him to keep him. And it's like, he's a good player. He was allowed to play through his failures and he's developed into just a solid NBA player. And I think that probably benefited a lot. Lou Dort had so many moments of failure in those bad teams when he had to like handle the ball and stuff. It was like, oh my goodness, this isn't what Lou Dort should be doing. But no one was like, Lou Dort, you're out of here. You're messing up, because he's overcast in that role. It was I think that probably does a lot for the psyche of the team.
Yeah, Michele vigorously about the way Lou Dort used to play.
Yeah, probably it wasn't a punt Dort to the moon kind of team for a long time.
Yep.
In spots still do, but anyhow, while we were talking about pre-switching and pick and rolls, I got distracted by the thought of Cole Anthony defending pick and roll last night, which
the Bucks. Oh, my
yeah.
God.
I mean, I was listening to the Dream Team this morning and say, wow, Shea scored a lot. Yeah, he did. Most certainly. I mean, that pick and roll defense was really
It's-
something.
It's soft, and they get distracted, and there's like 4 guys that are like trying to stop it, but aren't doing anything good enough to stop it.
No.
And it's like guys are open everywhere. Shea can find his way through it. It was. I mean, that's hopeless. That's a hopeless situation.
Yeah. And it's a stark, and I know that, I mean, sometimes you can see OKC playing lazy defense very few times, but you can see like a lazy closeout. You can see them being a little bit too conservative against teams that can really shoot the basketball, and you can have bad games. But most night than not, almost always, you can see them playing extremely good pick and roll coverage. And when you see like other teams playing like this, say, this doesn't look the same sport. It's looked like a very, very different sport defensively. Offensively, you can see like teams doing nice things. But on defense, OKC puts such a high standard that when you see teams playing pick and roll, like you got Shea. I mean, there are like a gazillion tons of pick. Like playing middle of the way, where if he starts dribbling, you're dead. And if he shoots, you're dead anyway. Like how in the world are you defending like this? Just try. Stay home. It's probably better. Like the middle ground against Shea is like, no. There's just no. And yeah, that happened, I think, 7 times.
Yeah. We need to take a quick break. We come back. I want to discuss more big picture Thunder stuff for the rest of the season and how they played so far. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. I want to tell you about my friends over at Bob Moore Kia. Right now, you're seeing my family in front of a Kia vehicle at Bob Moore over on Northwest Expressway in between Council and Rockwell here in OKC. Right now, you can get a 2025 Kia Telluride SX Prestige X line. That's what I'm driving right now, and it's awesome. You could go get one of those today, 0% for 60 months. You can also get a 2026 Kia Sorento S. That's what we're standing in front of in this photo if you're watching on YouTube, which we got a lot of people on YouTube right now. It's great. 0% for 60 months for the Kia Sorento as well. Great vehicle. You can get a Kia EV6 GT line, 0% for 72 months. And you can also get a Kia K4 LXS, $155 a month for 24 months today. I can get great deals on a Kia vehicle. If you haven't considered driving a Kia, just go test drive one at Bob Moore Kia. Tell them that Down to Dunk sent you. Support the people that support Down to Dunk. I also wanted to alert you that we have restocked our Big Dog shirts. You can see J-Dub wearing one in the photo here on YouTube right now. Go get yourself a Big Dog shirt if you haven't had the chance to get one. And you can also get a Belgian Waffle University shirt right now as well. AJ Mitchell approved. Okay. AJ Mitchell did leave the game last night. The Thunder are like running a skeleton crew right now. Luckily, Shea is still on the court right now, who is the favorite to win the MVP and looks like it yesterday. I mean, the guy's efficiency has been through the roof so far this season, and last night was just like a masterclass. It was probably, if they had more guys to play this basketball game, he probably doesn't get 40 because he probably doesn't go back in the game.
Yeah, he gets 26, 28.
Yeah, but he finished the game 40 points on 19 shots. He was 16 of 19 in this game. He had 11 assists, 7 boards, only 2 turnovers. He had a steal. Shea was unbelievable, and just it's a great game if you want to go watch like Shea's creativity, because it was just on full display yesterday as a shot maker, as a passer, and some of it was that there wasn't a lot of resistance from the Bucks defense to keep him from doing what he wanted to do. And whenever you don't give him a ton of resistance, he can go and just get 40 and make it look incredibly easy and still like have enough room for everybody else to play. I mean, it was a masterclass yesterday from Shea.
Yeah, Yeah, it was. I mean, he could score on all three levels. I'm really into games when he starts getting downhill as a main choice. I mean, of course, he has a killer jumper. Everybody knows that. I think that you need to have it in order to be that dangerous. But when he has it at the rim, it's not everyone else's night. It's his night. And I mean, one of the other secrets of the Thunder, and we said it many times, is Shea allows for other to shine because he can get 25 possessions in offense, 25 shooting possessions in offense, and score 40. And that is sensational for a superstar because he can. I mean, would you be mad if he takes like 40 possessions from time to time? No, of course not.
No,
but he doesn't. I mean, I don't know how many games he had more than 30 shooting possessions. I think that it's very few. I mean, you can probably count on your fingers. So it's a secret. It's not really a secret because everybody knows that, but it's part of
one game where he's taken 30 shots this season.
Yeah, but if you include also the ones where, including the shooting fouls, the non-shooting fouls, or whatever, he gets to.
Did Shea get fouled? Do people talk about that?
Do people talk about Shea getting fouled?
Yeah. No, not as of late, but also sometimes. But anyhow, even if you count the shooting fouls, it's rare that he gets way above 30, which for a superstar, it's normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, part of that, and I was at Knicks Nets last night watching one of the craziest destructions, if not the craziest destruction I've ever seen in person. But so I did not watch Thunder Bucks. Speaking of other destructions, I saw the results of the destruction with the Bucks quotes after. One of the things I've been tracking with Shea this year, which is one of the crazier Shea numbers of the year, is his percentages on step backs specifically. He's always had this outrageous step back. His step back has never been this versatile. Like it used to be like Shea's going left. All right. He wants to get to his step back when he's going left. Yeah. Shea's going right. He might go to the cup. He might try to pass to the corner. He's a little bit more predictable. Now he'll like go right and then he'll cross back over to his left and then go into a step back. It used to be Shea's going left. He's going to get to the elbow and then he's going to like bump off to the step back, maybe a little bit further in from there.
Yeah.
Now it's like he'll do it at the 3-point arc. Shea is shooting 46% on step back threes this year.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. He's shooting 52% on step back mid rangers. Just outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out.
It's just stupid. It's never been done. I mean, maybe Curry.
I think Curry took. Here's the thing: Steph wasn't taking the same. I mean, like Curry, obviously, he's the best shooter ever, but his shot selection was different.
Yeah,
because he's smaller and it was a different kind of way. Like he doesn't play quite as physically with the ball. He's much more of, a scampering sort of guy, where Shea is much more like, I would say, methodical with the ball. Mm-hmm. And with Shea, like his ability to just put himself in a position to get to those step backs, and it has always been great. The fact that he's making them at this level now, where it's just like, all right, well, the dude was like great and crafty and could get to the rim and could get to his spots, and that's what made him really good. And he was a pretty good shooter, but the three ball was a little bit of a weak point. And he had, he could go cold sometimes on, the wrong nights or whatever. And he could make shots because he was getting to his spots, but the jumper wasn't always great if he wasn't able to get to his spots. And now it's like, oh, well, he could have nights where you're defending him perfect and it just doesn't matter because he's just putting up like Durant like shooting numbers. Like he's shooting 52% on step back mid-range shots. He's also taken way more step back mid-range shots than anybody else in the league. Yeah. It's not like
it's not low volume.
Right, exactly. Like he's taken way more than anybody else in the league.
Yeah.
Like he's taken 190. Like I covered Jalen Brunson, and I think of that as a huge part of Jalen Brunson's game. And Jalen Brunson has taken 90, and he's taken 190. And it's like and he's shooting 52%. It's just it's unbelievable the rate at which these shots are going in. And you look at the efficiency numbers now, and it's like I think you could argue he's having a better year this year than he did last year.
Oh yeah, you can.
Oh, easily having a better year. And it's the percentages. I think it's the passing. I think it's just his awareness of his teammates. And you look at like the teammates that have even been available. Like he's really been the only constant, throughout the season. Like last year, Dub played in a vast majority of the games, so he like had him alongside him. This year, like the guys that have played the most games alongside him are Casey Wallace and AJ Mitchell, who are both very good players, by the way. Like, but everybody else has been in and out of the lineup like quite a bit, and so for Shea to do all of this while playing with who knows? I mean, last night even like he threw 2 alley-oops to Brandon Carlson, in the game. Like he is just utilizing his teammates better than he did last season. And so I don't know. And he always talks about like he doesn't really, he's not satisfied with who he is in any moment. He's always wanting to get better. He always feels like there's room to get better. He wants to continue to push this thing as far as it will go. And he's 27 years old and is still like he's in like the start of his prime right now. And I don't know where this goes from here. I don't know that I would have thought he'd be a 40% 3-point shooter, which he's been to this point in the season. He's played 43 games. He's 39.9% from 3. He's basically having a 50-40-90 season and is passing better than he's ever passed. His defense is still very good for a guy that has the offensive load that he has. There's a reason why he's the front runner for the MVP, and I know that some of it's that guys have been eliminated due to games played or will be eliminated due to games played, but I hope that isn't mentioned so much when it comes to what Shea has done.
Right.
Because it's really, really special. It's not like he's getting it by default. Like I think that had everybody played enough games, you could still make the case that Shea should be the MVP. So I hope that it's not mentioned in such a way.
Yeah, I think in a league where Giannis and Luka both play, I think Shea has, at least in my mind, cemented himself as a top 2 player, which is pretty amazing considering who I think the number 1 guy is, and just like how unbelievable Jokic is. But the top 2 guys in the league right now, top 4 guys in the league, top 5 guys in the league, if you want to include Wemby or somebody else, like there's unbelievable talent in the league right now. Can I add one more Shea thing, which is huge? And I promise you the Thunder are not overlooking it. Career low turnover rate this year.
Yeah.
And the Thunder value turnovers so much on both sides of the ball.
Totally.
Like more than any other team in the league. Their entire defense is like, we are going to wreak havoc. And it's worth, I don't know if I included this Chet quote. I don't know if I included this Chet quote in the story but I kind of wish I did in retrospect. It's a great, very modern take on how the Thunder view fouling. And for what it's worth, they're fouling way less this year than they were last year defensively. But they realize that like fouls come because of, often a high turnover team is going to foul more. Yeah. And so Chet said fouling less isn't necessarily good, because if you're fouling less, are you playing less aggressive? Are you playing less physical? You know what I'm saying? It's not bad to foul. It's just bad to have bad fouls.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a great, succinct quote, a really smart thought. The Thunder will foul. The reason I'm bringing that up is because they want to force turnovers. And on the other end, they value turnovers just as much. They want to win the possession game. And that's their way of doing it. Some teams like Houston wants to win the possession game on the boards. They want to just crush you on offensive
Yep.
rebounds, and that's how they are going to create more shooting chances than you are. And the Thunder are going to create more shooting chances, not on the boards, but in the turnover battle. That's how they do it. And they value it like crazy. And when Shea is out there with a turnover rate under like 8% with a guy who handles the ball as often as he does, it's gonna do wonders for the offense. Even on plays where he doesn't score or assist, it's just that like the Thunder are able to get a shot off a little bit more often, and that will make a huge difference in their overall offensive production.
Yeah.
It's as important as clearly the shooting numbers are amazing, and we discussed that, and it's not just Shea. But the fact that you're not wasting movement, you're not wasting possessions, and it relates also to what Chet was saying. Bad fouls are probably fouls where you are in the wrong position. You're late. You're not doing what you're supposed to do, and then you foul in order to cancel or to minimize one of your errors. If you are in position and you are overly aggressive with your hands, with your chest, with your positioning, you are in the right position, and you are not gambling. You're just being very aggressive. That is probably, if you're not exaggerating, a good foul, because most time than not, if you're in a great position and you poke away the ball, that is a clean play. It's not that they are not calling it. It's just a clean play. The only difference is that either you slap or you don't. But you are in a perfect position. You are putting pressure, and it happens to sometimes do it with a little bit less of a result, not a process, just a different result, which is acceptable.
Yeah. Shea is also has his highest assist percentage of his career too, which it's just impressive. Like I said, like it's sometimes you don't turn the ball over just because you shoot it. Like you just shoot it a lot, and he does shoot it a lot. But he's looking for his teammates more this season too. Like he's just finding balance there, and just rarely turns the ball over, which is that's a pretty crazy skill set to have. And like we've seen, like a guy like Russell, whose usage rate was through the roof, and his assist percentage was crazy high, but his turnover percentage was through the roof as well. I think there were seasons where he's like leading the league in assist percentage, but he's turning the ball over like 18% of the time, and so Shea is just he's like reached a level of control that like very few players ever get to, within his game, especially when just think about that Houston game. Like you mentioned it with Chet, but like think about it with Shea, where they were throwing like 2 and 3 guys at him every time down the court. Like he crosses
and good ones.
Yes. Like some of the best ones.
Yeah.
The best guys.
I would say, yeah.
And it was never like, hey, we're just going to show him one guy and he's got to beat him. It's like, no, we're going to show him 2 or 3 guys and make sure that somebody else beats us. And it ended up working out really well for the Thunder. But a lot of that is that Shea just, even in the midst of having that kind of pressure, still has control over what he wants to do, which is incredibly rare.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I think that it wasn't always like this. I said it many times, but at the beginning, I remember when Horford was here, the team with Hill, Horford, Kenny, later Muscala, was playing with so much flow compared to the Shea-led possessions. And then it started to happen in pick and pops, where he was a great driver, and having a pick and pop partner was making things easy. And then it happened also with the Flair on the opposite side with Isaiah Joe. And you could see the start of a flow where certain plays were becoming part of the play that Shea went to in a passing mode.
Yeah.
Now he's really into the flow of, hey, I am commanding where the ball goes. It's not just if I have a pick and roll partner in Shea or in Chet, or if I have Joe flaring. He still loves those play. You can see when he sees Joe flaring with the opposing wing, he's always getting to him. But but it's just a different kind of player. It's not a coincidence that he now can take Brendan Carson and serve 2 perfect alley-oops. It was not there years ago. So it's incredible how much more complex the game is now in terms of how different looks he can get to, and the fact that he's doing it with the same amount or less of wasted possessions. That is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, Fred, what else from this Thunder team intrigues you?
That's a good question. J-Dub intrigues me right now.
Yeah.
J-Dub intrigues me right now. What do you guys make of the season that he's having, if anything?
I mean, it's really defined by injury. You know, it's defined by the function of his wrist and like what comes with an injury like that, just like the feel that he has as well in that hand. And now it's this hamstring injury. You know, I mean, this year is defined by those 2 things for him, and it's a bummer that he's had this happen to him. We still don't really have that much information about his hamstring injury, like how severe it is, how long he'll be out. I would assume it's longer than 2 weeks, but we really don't know. I mean, perhaps he can bounce back from it, but yeah, I mean, it's really going to be all about how he can progress as a 3-point shooter. To me, is a huge deal. I think that they've gotten by when he's been in the game without him taking and making a ton of threes. But once you get to the playoffs and teams are scheming like a lot of things you want to do out of the game, he's going to have to be able to make threes just because they don't have enough guys that you can count on night in, night out to make threes. And he's got to be one that gets 5 again, a game, and makes around 35 to 40%. Like he just has to if they win the title again. And so I think he's an improved player. I think you can see him thinking angles a little bit better. He's getting to the bucket and finishing well, or at least he was like kind of toward the end before he got the hamstring injury. But yeah, he's absolutely essential to what they do. Defensively, he can do things that a lot of other guys can't with his size and versatility. And then he's a guy that can get into the paint whenever he wants to. But he's got to get healthy, and luckily they have the All-Star break coming up, in a few weeks, and he's going to get some time off there that is kind of baked in. But yeah, it's really all about like, can you get a healthy J-Dub is one of like the biggest questions down the stretch. Because like they'll beat the Bucks, it didn't really matter who was in the game last night. Like they were going to beat the Bucks. They play Indiana tomorrow night in Oklahoma City, and who knows who's available. AJ left the game and was hurt, and like it's tough when you basically only have one creator now out there as an other guy, and Shea and everybody else. Like Kendrick Williams becomes outrageously important to them because he's a guy that can create a little bit on his own. So we'll just have to see there. But like the biggest question, like there's 2 questions. Like, can the Thunder get everybody healthy, and can they get like the A+ version of J-Dub? And if the answer to both those is yes, then they can go win the title again. If the answer to, and it's really Hartenstein, like they need Hart bad. Like if Hart or Dub are not healthy going into the playoffs, I would take, like, if you think they have like a 15 or 20% chance to win it again, I'd take that down to like 4,
Yeah.
You
clearly take the field if either of them are. You probably take the field anyway, just because of numbers.
Yeah, you might. But I just think you have to have both of those guys. And so to me, the Thunder's season will be, or at least their postseason run will be defined by the health of Hartenstein and J-Dub.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Michele, where are you standing on them not fouling as much defensively this year? What do you feel like
think-
they've corrected
Uh,
or changed?
I think that part of it is, especially over the past 15, 20 games, it's just a league tendency. It's not a specific Thunder tendency. I think that they are playing probably a little bit less point of attack in a certain way in certain moments. They are concentrating a certain level of defense in spots. And I think it's smart because, again, what Chet said about pacing yourself through a season, it's also that. But I don't think that they aren't doing things like last year. They mostly are. They are just probably a little bit more conservative in certain situations, and just better at the other things. Meaning they communicate better. They don't have to do too much to be just very steady on offense and very effective. So probably part of it is growing in communication and being in the right spot without having to be running towards the defender or being out of position, which leads to fouls, and also picking their spots a little bit better in terms of, hey, now we really turn it on. I remember that for probably 20 something games when Chet was not playing, they had this defense that was just crazy. They were like, it was maybe 10 minutes of frenziness. I remember the game against Boston where they just went completely crazy for 20 minutes and Boston couldn't score. I mean, that doesn't happen. They are not doing that. They are not going all out for 20 minutes. They probably don't need to. So maybe that is part of it.
Yeah, it's funny that you make that connection. Like, have you looked at the Chet, the foul rate on offs for Chet?
No.
So
But I bet it is very, like, when Chet is there, then they have so much cushion.
100%. And when Chet is on the court last year, their free throw rate defensively dropped like 6 percentage points.
Wow.
Mhm.
Which is ginormous. Like it was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was one of the biggest differentials in the entire league. And Chet missed 50 games last year.
Yep.
And I think part of that is just like the rim protection is not as good because you have only Hartenstein, or in some nights last year you had neither Chet nor Hartenstein
Mhm.
because there were times where they were both out and Hartenstein was hurt for periods too. And when the rim protection is not as good, you're more likely to foul. And I think part of that also is like when Chet's not there for a long period, maybe they feel like strategically they have to get into their defenders more and be more aggressive. And if you look at the numbers this year, it's not as extreme, but it's the same concept. They're about 5 percentage points better on free throw rate allowed when Chet is on the court. And it's the best number on the team again this year. So like, I feel like stylistically and execution wise, like, I don't know, that's a good defensive player of the year argument for Chet, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the most aggressive defense in the league doesn't have to change its aggression because of his presence and the fouls, which you accept, but you never want. You're never like, yay, there was a foul. Hooray. 2 free throws for the other team. You're just like, you accept them as a necessary evil because over the larger sample, it will net out in your benefit.
Yeah.
You never want them in the moment. But if you can still reap all the benefits of playing that way and not necessarily have to have as many of the detriments, it's not like the Thunder would never foul. They're like middle of the pack. But last year they were bottom 5 in terms of free throw rate allowed. And like Chet being out there, that was an interesting point because that absolutely makes sense and is backed up by the numbers too.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that I would want to ask you, Fred, is just the importance of AJ Mitchell to this team. You look at right now, the two main grouping of Shea and AJ Mitchell is a plus 21.4 in their minutes together. Defensive rating of 100, offensive rating of 122. And Chet even gave AJ a little shout out in the article you wrote that's at The Athletic right now. where AJ was able to kind of recover and bat up an alley-oop away. But yeah, AJ's importance is like becoming more and more pronounced for this team. Like at first it was like, oh, this is kind of like a fun little bonus to have this guy on the team. And as like the season goes on, it's like, oh, he's kind of essential to this team thriving because of what he can create as an offensive player and how good of a defender he's become. Because that was always kind of the thing, is like he's kind of the 6-man kind of guy. Like maybe he's Malcolm Brogdon or something like that, you know. Oh, that would be cool, you know. He's a guy that can play both ends of the court, and he's a guy who's super competitive. And he's a guy that I think if it were me, I'd want him closing playoff games. Like that's what I would want to see. And there's a lot of numbers that back it up, and just the creativity of his play backs it up too. But I was just curious what you thought of AJ.
He's really good. He's just a really good player, and he's been really good all year. And, you know, part of the reason why he's looked so much more necessary throughout the course of the season is because of kind of the roller coaster year that J-Dub has had, where it's like he's hurt for the beginning of the year, and they need that secondary ball handler because he's not there. And he's normally the guy running their bench unit. And then he comes back, but he's still getting into rhythm. And then he kind of starts to look like himself. And then he hurts the hamstring against Miami. And it's like, okay, we're back to square one. And Mitchell's been such a steady presence for them. I'm with you. At the beginning of the year, it was like, oh, this is great. Now they have somebody who can like really just like run the offense alongside J-Dub when Shea's off the floor. And now it's like, oh, they can have somebody either to run second side stuff now next to Shea, or they can have Shea coming around the second side and attacking closeouts off of like AJ Mitchell drives. Like what they need, because they have a lot of good guards, but what they need from AJ Mitchell and what they get is someone who can actually hit the paint, like with dribble penetration. Because like Caruso's not hitting the paint with dribble penetration.
Nope.
And if Dort did, apparently it made Michele want to jump off a building, but Dort did do it for years. But he's not the dude who's going to do it on this type of team. Case Wallace.
Hey, he's taking jumpers now, which I equally want to just throw myself or the TV out of the window, but I accept.
Hey, Lou Dort hit his threes for like years. It could come back.
No, I'm strictly talking about mid-range jumpers.
Oh.
Now it's a habit to try those, which I don't support.
Well, Case and Wallace is, not necessarily going to get to the paint, and those paint touches are just like so important for creating good threes, for obviously being able to get to the rim and being able to put the defense in rotation. And like, if you need preferably two other guys in today's NBA. You need preferably two other guys who can put the defense in rotation alongside your star. And if you have J-Dub out there and you have him out there, one of the lineups I really like that they play is when they play like the three guards with the two bigs, and they do it with like Shea and, I mean, you just said the Shea and AJ numbers together. I didn't realize they were that crazy. I'm sure the numbers on this lineup are probably crazy then too, but they'll do that lineup with like Case and Wallace, and then they'll play the two bigs out there together. And it's this great dynamic where defensively, you have the two bigs walling off the rim, and Hartenstein is such a good passer and Chet is such a good shooter that it's like totally fine to have the two 7-footers out there. And then you have guard-like tendencies around everybody there. Mitchell's ability to just create off the dribble is like, because I want to know, either of you guys, did you think coming into this season, like, man, I wonder if they're going to make an acquisition for a secondary ball handler to like help out in this exact role that Mitchell is in? And if so, like, did you see this and think immediately like, okay, well, I guess that concern is gone, or has it happened over time?
I don't think I thought that, because we had seen how well AJ had played in Summer League.
Yeah.
Like, kind of see this coming a little bit. I don't know that we thought he'd be this good, but I think that that paired with Topic, who was supposed to be playing right now, who is on the road back to recovery, we kind of thought that they would give those guys a shot to become that, rather than going to get somebody. Because like the truth is, if they were to go to get somebody that's like as good as AJ has been, it would cost quite a bit. And that player is either on a rookie scale deal or they're on like a bigger contract. Like those guys are really hard to acquire, especially at what AJ's at right now, which is like $3 million a year for the next 2 years, like, which is just impossible.
Yeah. For that amount is impossible.
Yeah, they needed that in the playoffs. Like, there's no question. They playing against Indy. Indy exposed that so many times in the finals that it's like, hey, we know that you guys have two creators, and we're going to make life miserable for those two guys, and we're going to make everybody else try to beat us. And the Thunder barely did it. They took them to 7 games based on that principle alone. That like we believe that if we make life just incredibly difficult for those two, that it's going to be really hard for you guys to score. And so they needed somebody else. And AJ was definitely like on the list of guys we thought could be that. I think Topic too is like still somebody that they need to kind of figure out who he is. And it's kind of a bummer that you missed his whole first season. You're going to miss a vast majority, if not the whole thing, of his second season before you even get a chance to figure out what he is. A guy who's a lottery pick. But yeah, I don't know that we were thinking of that. Maybe Michele, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I think that the thing that impressed me the most in Summer League was not like the fact that he scored. That has to be expected for a guy that was good already in the regular season. I think that last year we pinpoint 2 things about AJ that we wanted to check back at the end of the summer. One was, can he be a better shooter? Maybe 3 things. 2, can he be a better defender? And 3, is he going to get stronger? Yeah. And boy, oh boy, the first game we see in Summer League, he's just different strength-wise. He can just go against Wells. I was playing for Memphis, just shoulder him and get to the rim and said, oh, that is interesting. So I think that in that moment, I said, okay, I'm fine trying to see this through at least for a couple of months and then see later if we really need someone. And then just whenever he started the season like this, doing stuff that, I mean, yes, sometimes he can hit a jumper that it's just a wrong jumper to take and a very hard one. And you say, well, that's not happen again. But mostly was, hey, you can just blow by guys. You can just get to the rim with a strong hand. And it's just very comfortable in taking some very composed and in rhythm dribble jumpers from, 12 feet. Those are stuff that you can, if you see them repeating themselves enough against good competition, that is a good tell. And I think that, after the first 15 games, I was okay. That's it. And those units, you mentioned the double big lineups with Mitchell. Those were the units that for the first 20-something games were just making the Thunder great. Because whenever Shea used to sit at the end of the third quarter, then that lineup was the one who started most 4 quarters, and it was just working. And then I'll close with a J-Dub thought. I think that J-Dub spent the first 25 games, or however, I don't have the right count in front of me, but say 20-something games, trying to get himself out of the mud. He plays like 4 games back in the right rhythm, start to hitting threes, starting to play good defense, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it was not easy, because I think that he found a team that was in a certain rhythm. Some of the plays that he used to take last season were not there for some reason. AJ being one of them, but also like different lineups, different conception of certain units. And it took a while, which is normal. But then it's a bummer that whenever he starts feeling it a little bit and he's just getting downhill and just being tougher in defense and start to be comfortable with his jumper and having better position on the court, that he has to sit again. That is just a bummer to me.
Yeah, he's only played 24 games
Yeah.
so far. So, yeah, it is a bummer. But my expectation is that he's going to at least have the opportunity to get healthy before
Yeah.
the playoffs. And that's all you can really hope for from a guy who's struggled as much as he has with injury so far this season. Fred, let's see. Go read Fred's article on Chet. It's really good. Go subscribe to the Cats and Shoot podcast on Patreon. I'm a subscriber. It's a really good show. Not only like it's a Knicks show, but it's also just a good show to listen to if you're just into the NBA. Fred touches on a lot of different stuff there. Go listen to the NBA Daily from today, where you can hear Fred talk about Norman Powell being bow-legged for 18 minutes. Let's see. What else? Anything else that we can promote before you get out of here, Freddie?
I got my weekly notebook, comes out every Friday. Just on 3 random thoughts. I had a feature on the Pistons come out earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
You can go check that out if you're interested in the Pistons, and kind of another smash mouth sort of team with a really interesting, very specific, and I think very healthy, like young guy culture where they're all really competitive. It's been a while with them, and that was a fun story to write. So yeah, check out all that.
Awesome. This was super fun. I feel like we could record for like another hour and it would be great, but we won't do that because we'll have another podcast coming out tomorrow. So appreciate you, Fred. Thank you, Michele. And we will talk to you guys again on Friday.
Until the dawn, until the dawn.